Ok. Allô, bonjour.
So good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm sorry. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm going to try and speak French, and I apologize for two reasons. The first reason is I am not used to speaking French, and I'm not very presentable because my luggage was stuck somehow in Montreal. And so I just had to buy an outfit to be decent. Also, I learned French 20 years ago in Belgium, so maybe I have a hint of a Belgian accent, and I apologize for that as well. I started being interested in that topic with my friend, Dr. Constantino, and his patient, Jake. Jake has many challenges. He had a hard time learning. He had also motor disabilities, and back in those days, we didn't know why. But at a time in his life, gene sequencing became available, as Juliette explained, and we realized that he had a mutation of MYT1L gene. I'm sure you know Legos. Genome is just like a set of Legos or Lego. You have 20,000 blocks, and all genes is just one of those 20,000. With Lego, you can do many things. You can design many things by assembling them the way you want. And the brain is maybe like that car. Well, my presentation is just moving along too quickly. So the brain cells are like wheels, for example, or those red blocks. And those red blocks, you can find them in the brain, in the liver, and the genome just contains all those different colors. We realized in Jake that one letter in his instruction book or booklet, if you will, was just changed so that there's this funny looking block. And that's maybe because of this funny looking block that he has so many challenges. Now, you see that if there's one blue block missing on that car, is not too bad. However, if the wheels are missing, then the little car will look like a car, but won't be able to move. So we wanted to understand what are the consequences of having this funny-looking red block. Also, there are limitations and situations when there are translation issues, what we call nonsense or missense. And is it okay in French? Well, I can switch to English if you prefer. So, Juliette explained very nicely the problems we face with our patients. She talked about different areas where we see challenges, motor skills, motor delay, speech delay, behavioral changes, and changes in the brain development. So, we decided to start our program with the Jacob Gene Fund and with a pilot study. We built a mouse model and a cell model in order to reproduce Jake's variants. The first thing we learned is that one of his cells had a nonsense mutation. And then we also had a mouse model, as explained before. They are similar. I'm sorry, it's very hard to translate his French. I apologize for saying that, but it's very difficult. So we wanted to use those mice to understand what's the impact on the neighboring genes. We added a mutation that's reasonably similar, and we had individual cells that all carry the same mutation, and we simulated what happens in the brain. So what can we learn from that model, and what can we do? My colleague had a look at those cells because a number of things can be learned from studying cells. Together, we started a project between 2020 and 2025, and we had 3 research questions. The first question, we wanted to know what are the consequences on cells and brain circuits of having a bit less of the funny Lego piece. I work with Susan Maloney. She's an expert in mouse models. She's very good at understanding how they move, what are their learning abilities, what are their behaviors, and how we can learn from them. Now, the first thing that's rather easy to spot is when mice are hyperactive, and we compare brothers and sisters, if you will, from the same litter of mice. And so, on one side, you have 2 mice from the same litter, and on the other hand, you have mice with a simulation of a MYT1L syndrome. Now, if you look at that mouse, you see that there's a pretty repetitive behavior, and we organize Olympic Games for those mice. We ask or instruct them to climb that pole or walk on a grid, but quite often they're faced with challenges. They have a hard time doing what they're instructed to do,